Welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello. Today, we've got Justin Sliva on the show. Justin, welcome.
Hey, man. Hey, Chris. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. And I know we got to connect here recently. I was on your show, so great to have you again. And I know you said you're the guy who goes and you do other podcasts, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So Adam's kind of he's my introvert. I don't want to say sidekick. He's my co-host because we're equals there, but he's kind of my introvert where I'll talk to anybody about anything forever. And he's kind of a little more reserved. And so we found that it's a good balance for him he does our sales calls and our strategy calls when people call and want to know about land investing. And I'm so out there about so much stuff and the story that, what takes place through most entrepreneurs' mindset and kind of going through that journey. I'm willing to explain it to other people and tie it back to what we do.
Sounds good. And I know before we hit record, we kind of talked about what we want to talk about today, what our listeners are going to get a lot of value out of. And so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick? Like, who are you? Maybe your quick 1 or 2 minute highlight reel, and then what you're up to now. And we could start to dive into it.
Wow, that's a tough one. So we talk about highlight reels, and I'm like, well,
the wins and the losses, right?
Yeah, the wins and the losses. So
it doesn't have to always be just wins.
Yeah, you threw my name out there, Justin Sliva, and I was I spent at 22, I left college and went to work in the rail industry, and it was like I go to this meeting, I've got an interview with Edward Jones, and I'm going back for a second interview, and I go to a railroad interview. And the manager tells me I'm going to make more money than I ever can with the railroad as long as I'm willing to answer the call. And I'm like, man, I'm working 2 jobs in the banking industry right now, bartending at night. And this guy's telling me I can make as much money as I want. So I go do that. And I do that for 15 years and work my way up. I was an executive at a small railroad. I was what most people refer to as a chief operating officer. We call it a general manager. So anything that had to do with operations was for me for an entire railroad. Relatively young to do that, but somebody saw something in me about 5 years into my rail career and fast tracked me at a big Fortune 100 railroad. And then I got recruited to go to a small one because we moved 7 times in 8 years. And my wife, when we had kids, we ended up getting a director, a bandee job or director's job for that Fortune 100 company in our town, like our hometown. And she's like, I'm not leaving again. And so the opportunity came to go to a smaller railroad, and I took it, promoted once there, became that general manager. And after about 10 months of doing that role, we're seeing best ever service, safety, everything's built up. You're building this platform because, in a rail industry, you have to retire at 60 and you have to have 30 years of experience. Well, I'm 15 years into it and I'm 30, so how am I? I'm 39. So I was 35 at the time. So, I mean, I'm relatively young for doing this. And, I was like, man, building this thing that was going to be what I thought. And then I get this call from my VP of HR. It says, hey, Justin, can you swing by the headquarters? Because my office was separate from where our headquarters was. And I was like, it's 6 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. Something ain't right.
What are they about to talk about?
Yeah. So we walk into the corporate, the conference room. And, I get handed a separation agreement and I'm like, why? And, Texas has their weird thing. So I'm not, I end up signing an agreement that I won't say what was said back in the room, but needless to say, I didn't have a job. I had a check and I had to be driven home because I had gotten rid of my personal car because I had a company car that was part of my perk.
And you had to leave it there, huh?
Yeah. I had the guy and my employee that's driving me home, he's in tears because I'm leaving. And he's like, I don't get it. Like if you did what you've done for us and you don't have a job, he's like, I'm scared every day now that I'm going to get let go. And that's, to me, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, yeah, I understand that. It's just, it was, looking back, it wasn't the right fit. It wasn't my calling. It wasn't what I was supposed to be. So you asked Justin 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we just hit the 4-year mark from that piece of that change in the trajectory of life. And, it's one of those things that says something else is the universe is telling me I need to do something different. And that's the way I'll look back at it, even though that's not what I felt at that time.
Right. And then do you ever think about what would have happened if that hadn't happened and you were still there? I mean, maybe you'd be satisfied in the career, but I'm pretty sure you might not be doing anything that you're working on right now. Right. Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah. So that's a fair assessment. And we never know what we don't know is going to happen. Right.
Right.
We stay the course, life is funny like that. But like most entrepreneurs or most people that have that entrepreneurial spirit, you tend to find side hustles. You find side gigs. Like I've done fulfillment by Amazon. That's actually how me and Adam got together, working together, who's my co-host on Casual Fridays. We had 3 number 1 items and, we thought this is the thing, We weren't making much money. It was more of we got to say we owned a company and wrote off lunch together and made a little bit of money. One of the cool things about that is we sold a product to the Tiger Woods Foundation. We had one of our product line. They bought our entire product line out for a charity event because we were the only person that made this one color that they wanted. They wanted blue lights for it might've been like an autism awareness thing. It was a charity event for their foundation. And when he told me the order came through, and it was like ridiculous. It was like quantity was like 4,000. And he's like, dude, I think we're getting scammed. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, Tiger Woods Foundation is buying. And so we look it up and see that's their color. And that's what we had. It was like a blue light, it was something silly. And we're like, wow. So that was cool in that. But at the end of the day, I think we made, $200 or $300 or $1,000. It wasn't anything like crazy amount, but that entrepreneur in all of us tends to find these side hustles. I've owned a supplement company. We had Best Protein in the country by a magazine in 2016. And you continually learn these things and these journeys and these side hustles. And then one day you're forced with that Friday phone call and you got to make a decision. Is this the time that we can make that jump to full time? And that was for me, I was doing land at that point. I had just sent my first mailer out because I send direct mail to buy properties. And we had bought 21 properties off that mailer and was like, okay, I remember this vividly, Chris. I remember it vividly. I'm sitting next to my pool. I have no car, have no job. And I'm like, I'm a loser. I have none of this stuff that I'm supposed to have at 35 years old with 2 kids. I was supposed to go to a concert at our music festival that night. And I couldn't go because I didn't want to take my wife's car. Because it's in my mind, even though she stays at home and takes care of the kids, I pay for it. It's her car. I can't take her car to a music festival without her. We didn't have a babysitter.
Right.
So I'm sitting there and I'm just wallowing in my self-pity. And I say, you know what? I have enough money in the bank that I can last for a year. With no change of lifestyle, without finding another job, without anything. I'm going to give it my all for 6 months. Every day I'm going to pretend this is work and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this happen. I'm going to learn everything about this. I'm going to be the professional that I know I am. And I'm going to see what happens. 5 years later, yesterday, I walked a $3.5 million ranch I paid for that I just bought sight unseen. We will make about $3 million off that ranch once we're done subdividing it. So that's 5 years later by saying, hey, I know I'm a professional. I know how to do processes. Let's process the shit out of this and let's make sure we can make things happen.
That's amazing, man. Things can change so fast. I just had a call with someone yesterday and she was saying something like, she lives in California and I grew up with her in Texas. And so she used to live in Houston. I know we talked about that. Yeah. You guys aren't too far. Did you say you're in Dallas?
We're in Fort Worth.
You're in Fort Worth.
So I'm in Burleson, which is a suburb of Fort Worth.
Okay, cool. And she was saying, I don't think I'll be able to afford a house in California. They're so expensive. And I'm like, things can change so fast. You might not know how you're going to buy a $700,000 house. And 2 years from now, you might be paying cash. Right. Yeah. If you have the right goals, the right dedication. And I love how you said, I'm going to show up every day as if this is work and I'm going to give it my all because that's what you have to do. Yeah. And you kind of had your back against the wall in that situation. And I know that if you've ever heard of the book, Good to Great, or if you've ever heard Good is the Enemy of Great, that's the problem a lot of us have is we have a pretty good job. We get paid pretty well. We have benefits and it's very difficult to really push yourself more because you know that paycheck's coming in next Friday or this Friday or whenever it comes in. But as soon as that rug is ripped out from underneath you, like you said, you're wallowing next to the pool in self-pity. Like you couldn't go to the concert. You didn't want to take your wife's car. And that gave you that motivation and that drive to go all in. I love that. Yeah.
And so we talk about we're all animals, right? So fight or flight, you have that choice. And, when your back is against the wall, we all have to make that decision. Are we willing to step forward and fight for it? Or are we just going to sit there and take it? And there's times that flight is the right thing. I'm not saying it's always time to fight, but you have to make that conscious effort. If you commit to that fight, you have to commit to it 100%. And you can't waver from that.
Absolutely. What advice would you have for someone in the audience on how to do that? Because so many people are trying to figure out what they want to do. Yeah. Did you just say, I'm going to pick land, I'm going to take a class on it or find a mentor? Did you know what you wanted to do? Or did you start to just sit there and fumble through YouTube videos and try to figure things out? Because I think that's what we all do.
We took a course and I get excited by land. And it's, you meet these people that are successful in niches and then you say, hey, I want to do that too, because they did it. And, you have to have somewhat of excitement about it. Now, I fall in love with the process of building businesses. Like I named off a few, we've done Amazon, we've done the white label products, I've done the protein stuff and always got flipped motorcycles and flipped cars. I like selling stuff. I like branding stuff and building it. And so I was able to find things that really turned me on to this asset class that set well with my soul. It just kind of like, it was one of those things like, oh yeah, this is cool, we could do that. And then you get spitballing and you get that creative energy and it feels good. Now, looking back, I know why I was so comfortable in land is because my grandfather, he owned a vacuum cleaner store. So back when you used to go get a vacuum, you go to a vacuum store and buy a vacuum. Yeah. And in the late 70s, early 80s, he sold out. And at that time made pretty good money. He bought a big ranch, like a big section, and he went out there and lived out there. So he sold his little house in the city, sold this and bought this 640 acres, just as like an hour outside of the Metroplex. And so he lived there for 5 years and money started, he didn't have anything coming in because he's retired. So he would sell a piece off, he'd sell a little bit more off, and then he'd sell that and buy a different ranch. And what he did for his retirement plan is he bought this big place, sell a couple off, sell the whole thing, move to another one, live there for 20 years. That's on the money he made off the other one, sell that one, buy a smaller one. So he went from section to 50 acres to 30 acres back to a house. He's 95 years old. And, you see that now and you do what he did. It was one of the oldest professions out there, you buying land and trading it. And that's all he did. And that's how he preserved his wealth so he could live long-term. And so I look at that and I'm like, oh, that's what Grandpa Joe did, and now thinking about what we do full-time and trade and actively looking for those deals and then putting them on the market and utilizing that piece of the processes and the technologies that we have today.
That's incredible. So right now your main business model is finding pieces of land and then parceling them off, or do you ever do new construction at all? I'm just interested to know. Yeah. Once you find the land, what do you do with it?
Yeah. My main business is buying off-market properties and bringing them to the market. Okay. And then we typically buy them for anywhere from 30 to 50 cents on a dollar. And we try to realize as much as we can from the off market to going on market arbitrage. We do some parcel stuff. Like right now I have 2 subdivides going, but I also have another 5 or 6 parcels that are just on the market as they sit. I've been actively looking for more subdivides as of late, because that's where I'm kind of wanting to move my business to. And for instance, I found 2 deals off market. I turned that into 17 deals on the sell side, and you force the appreciation. I can offer more money on the front side and still get the same returns that we're used to. Depending on the size of the ranch, we can, if it's a ranch, if it's a big parcel, we can also utilize leverage. Our track record, we have the history. We just didn't have much track record with banks. And since we've now started building those relationships and they've done business with us, they see how we operate. It's funny that you go from, I don't know if I'll get approved for this, to they're telling me to bring them more deals because they need to send me more money just because they're that happy about it. And it's funny how those transitions have. But like we said, I'm going to show up every day. I'm going to be a professional and I'm going to treat those people like I would expect to be treated. And and we build these synergies around you. And I know you can talk to that because you've done this in Houston and you're building in Denver. And as we do this, you'll notice the same things that work in Houston work in Denver, because the people are the same. They inherently have the same good qualities and traits. And if you can treat people right, you can grow from there.
That's so true what you said there. And what we learn every single day in terms of sales, mindset, productivity, those things are applicable across the world, across business models. Mm-hmm. They may not be exactly, apples to apples comparisons, but the skills are transferable. So we can up and move somewhere else and start to do the same thing, more or less. There may be some local regulations or additional taxes or something to pay attention to. And I guess that's a good question for me to ask you next is, are your land deals all in one area, or are you kind of investing across the nation?
Man, so over this journey, we have bought and sold land in 42 different states, all from Texas.
Wow.
I've only gone to the stuff.
Any of them?
Huh?
Have you done most of it virtually, or?
Yeah, most of it's virtual. I've gone to some of the stuff in southeast Oklahoma, some of the stuff in North Texas. We went to that big ranch yesterday. Like I said, we bought it $3.5 million and didn't go look at it before we bought it. So typically we have a drone pilot go out. It's $175. And then I've got marketing material. He's done a video, he's edited it. So I've got kind of a hype video, but then I get this raw footage too. And then I can take screenshots and pictures from it for the different things that I want to see. And I understand what the access looks like, what it looks like from the bird eye view, have him take pictures of stuff that has unique characteristics about the property that he sees. And it gives us a good feel. And it's cheaper than a plane ticket to most places in the country.
So you have a local drone person, or do you have to find this in each state that you go to?
Yeah, no, we find one in each state. We use a program or a website called droners.io.
Cool.
And it's like
there's a nugget of information for you.
So it's basically a bulletin board of drone pilots all across the country. And you put up what you're willing to spend, what you need, and people bid on your job. I have never found a place where I couldn't find a drone pilot using that.
That's amazing.
So yeah, and it's just utilizing technology. Like we said, it's how do you implement what's out there maybe for yourself or other industries in your niche, and it helps you process what you're doing.
And like you said there, the technology, I mean, it enables so much of this to happen from home without having to leave your office.
Yeah.
And deals are getting done every single day just like that. And so sometimes it's just a matter of having a conversation like this and learning, oh, you said
droners.io.
Droners.io. I was like, I think I can't read my own handwriting. Droners.io. And you can find people with drones because these days drones are so accessible. Everybody has a drone, or at least most people have one, maybe even multiple drones if they're in the photography space. And a good DJI drone. I used to have one. I need to get another one actually, especially now that I live in Denver. I'm like, it's so beautiful. I wish I had my drone to fly around, but I sold it. I was doing arbitrage and I would just buy a drone and then sell it for more. And then now I don't have a drone anymore. So I need to go buy another one. But the technology piece enables so much to happen. But if we hadn't had this conversation, I might not have ever thought to even know that that's possible to do virtual land real estate stuff from your home office, which is cool.
And the fun part about the technology piece is, you know, as a worker, we all kind of you hit kind of the nail on the head for me. And I hate that you lead it into it because I don't want this to come off in a weird way. But we all say, "Oh, I should." Like my first thought was, I need to go get a drone too because that would be the best way to do this.
Right.
But from the drone to be flown there, I have to go there and fly it.
Exactly.
So we have to learn how to separate ourselves from some of these processes. And how can I do it remotely? How can I do this and make it work? And sometimes you only learn that by being forced to. And in my corporate job, one of my jobs I had, I was what's called a road manager of train operations. And so I had a territory that's 250 miles long. And there's no way to be to cover the whole thing. My office was in the middle. And a lot of times I was on the road between one end or the other. And that taught me how to let go and let professionals do their jobs, set the expectation, you know, make sure you have a clear expectation and you have instructions in a way it needs to be done, and then let the professional do what they need to do. And a lot of times the professional knows how to do it better than you. So you have to let them do what they know how to do. Just guide them in the way that you need them. Hey, I need pictures. I want a 60-second video that has the parcel overlay. I want to know any unique stuff, and I want you to get pictures of the access so I can make sure it's clear and we can get to it. And if you see anything cool, please get that. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, and like have fun with the video. So you'll see this sunset shot come up and it sits at the bird's eye view. And you're like, dang, this is nice. I bought this or I'm buying this for $8,000 and it's worth $30,000. And you're like, yeah, okay. The videos make it worth $35,000. You know, you add a couple 5,000 to it, and now you made a little bit more money off a $200 video. And let the guy do what he's supposed to do.
And that goes to the quality of the video and the marketing as well. Whenever you're going to sell it, it makes it look a lot more amazing than if you just went out there and had someone go take regular cell phone pictures. So I love how that's part of the product. I think you said hype video. They basically create that hype video to market it. And one thing I wrote down here, let professionals do their job. I love that because I love flying a drone around for fun, but like you said, you need to learn to let go. Too many of us think that because we can do it, we have to do it ourselves. And that's what keeps us stuck because we're out there flying the drone. We're posting it on social media. We're marketing it ourselves. We're making the flyers in Canva. You know, we need to let go of those things. Yeah. And that way you get to focus on your highest dollar producing activities in your day-to-day business.
No, you're exactly right. And I think that's a hard thing for anybody that's built anything from scratch because you were the person that did it. You had to do it. You're the one explaining it to it. And if they're not doing it the exact way, but sometimes they may see something you don't or have an experience that you don't have and they crank it out fast. Like you mentioned Canva, and I use Canva a lot, but I have a friend that's a graphics designer. So he says I'm his best customer because I'll sketch out what I want on a piece of notebook paper. I'll take a picture and say, I want something similar to this. And he'll digitize it and do it. And he has it back to me in 10 minutes. And he's like, okay, here's your logo. And I'm like, oh, great. It would have taken me hours on Canva to try to draw this thing out, and letting him do that and just like doing that real quick. And he's like, you tell me exactly what you want. I may make a tweak or two. Hey, make the font a little bit bolder. Hey, can you small it? Yeah. And click. And it takes him 3 seconds and he has it back to me. And it's just one of those things to letting them do. And you see that with, like for us with real estate agents, a lot of people in land space want to sell the land themselves. I would rather pay somebody for producing a sell for me at 6%. And they've answered the 37. Is there water at the street? Well, it says that in the ad. Is it, is it still available? It's still on the market. It's still there showing available. What's the owner finance rates? Well, it says that in the ad. It has exact payment breakdowns for you because we're required to do that. So letting them take some of that stuff is very cost effective sometimes.
Definitely. So what would you say is your main zone of genius? Like what's the main activities that you like to focus on in your day-to-day now that you've delegated or outsourced most of the stuff?
Most of the stuff that I do is deciding where I'm going to mail to next and then looking at potential deals. Like my pipeline my idea for a successful real estate investor is to fill your pipeline, whether that's direct mail doing it or me funding a lot of deals. I do own a company that was the first company that would openly joint venture on raw land deals. So if you brought a raw land deal to me that we were going to flip and it met my criteria, I'd put up all the cash for you and you'd sell it. You'd list the agent, you're the person responsible to get it sold. And then we split the profit 50-50. It wasn't a loan. You had 6 months to do it. And, I wouldn't approve it if I didn't think we were going to sell it and make money. So it wasn't like a free for all. Yeah. And, that was, I keep my inbound pipeline of deals full because I'm looking at other people's deals and I'm looking at my deals coming back. And so that's what I like to do in land. I like to look at the potential because it's exciting. Like what's that? When you have the potential of, this could be a great one, it's in a county you like, it's got the topography, like it's near this national forest. Is it going to be on the side of a mountain or is it going to have a little flat spot for a cabin? Ooh, the person can put a cabin on it. Now your juices are going and I'm getting excited. Then I look at the deal. Oh man, we're getting it for $30,000. It's worth 75. Oh man. Yeah, this is a deal. Buy it. Let's get it going. And so I get excited in that. And that's what I focus on my daily activities in.
Right. And again, that goes back to your zone of genius, what you enjoy doing, as well as the best return on your time, because finding those deals and having that eye in understanding what to look for, you've gotten that through experience and you know what to look for. Whereas maybe I would look at that and be like, oh, that looks cool. 30,000. Is that fair? Is that expensive? I'm not sure. Yeah. And I might skip on the opportunity when you could have made $20,000, $30,000 or whatever the margins are. So I love that you're focusing on that. And then you let professionals do the drones. You have an agent sell the land for you and you let them do their thing. And how often are you checking in? Do you have a few key people? Because I imagine it gets very difficult as you go across multiple states. Yeah,
I have a list of properties that are where they're at, whether it's in escrow to buy, if it's on the market, if it's being sold. And so my on the market properties, I check in about bi-weekly on a Monday. My stuff in escrow, that same Monday's my check-in day. Monday, I'm sending them an email just in escrow. Hey, just wanted to see how this is coming on. Are we still on date? And I don't do that. If they tell me, say we've got a 6-week closing set up for it, and it's week 2, I know they're still running title. If they haven't sent me a title commitment by about day 30, I'll say, hey, can I get that title commitment? I haven't seen it yet. Oh yeah, let me check on it. And then I know they can get their paperwork done in a couple of days if they need to, but there's different processes for each thing. But it's typically on Mondays, I'm running through my CRM on anything that I have that's in escrow on the buy or sell side and on the market. And I'm just checking in with the people that got that piece with it. And so, they may not respond back Monday. They may respond back Tuesday or Wednesday, but that have the whole week of them being in the office to get back to me. And if by Wednesday they haven't gotten back to me, Thursday morning to get a follow-up. Hey, as per my email on Monday, I wanted to see where we're at. The good old office, just checking in while you aren't doing your job. Nice banter.
Yeah, those are the good corporate habits that we developed back in those days. And so, hey, as per my last email, or copying the boss, and then they reply really quickly. It's just funny how that happens. Like, hey, they've ignored my email.
Rings. Or the phone rings. It's like, hey, Justin, I'm so sorry about that. Let me. Here's the answer to it.
As soon as you CC their N+1 or whatever they call it these days, they get back to you ASAP. Oh, all of a sudden it's priority for them. So I love how you check in on Mondays, because me being in the real estate space as well, it's interesting because while we can technically work anytime, have flexibility, we can work on weekends, odd hours if we choose to, most of the companies, like you said, title companies, attorneys that we might have to deal with, they have 9 to 5. It's almost like going to the post office. You're not going to be able to go in there after 5 or 6 p.m. in most cases. And so we have to learn how to operate in that little calendar, checking in on a Monday. They have the whole week to get back to you instead of sending them that email on Friday where they're already leaving early after lunch. Buried, They go to lunch and then they have like a little, birthday cake at the office and they leave early and they're not going to check your thing till Monday. So I love that cadence. And then how about your team? I'm just curious. Do you have a pretty robust team, or is it mostly partners?
So since I'm just pushing it through and I have everybody that's, and I'll kind of walk you through this. And this is where a lot of people get confused in the way my business is. I sell a property a week. So kind of just so you have the kind of idea of deal flow. And I'm always looking at them. So, I may sell 3 or 4 in one week and then have 2 or 3 week lull. And so, but just average out a property a week. My property, my mailers are mailed by a mail house in Florida. So I have an account manager. So when I pull a list for data that I'm going to send out, I just send it to her. She gets the artwork lined up. She does the mail merge. They get it ready to go. Then she sends me back a proof. It has 50 proofs in it. I check, I approve it, and I send it back to her. Then that goes out by the mail from them. So for me to lick every stamp and do an envelope and run all that, it's just way too much time. So they do it, and it costs me at the most is 50 cents a letter. It comes down because I buy in bulk. So typically around 40 cents a letter because I buy so much. And that's folded, stuffed, stamped, and out the door. And all I'm doing is send an Excel spreadsheet. So when it goes out, it goes to the potential seller. They respond to it. If they call in, they call my answering service. And so they're on the phone 24 hours a day. They have a script that qualifies them. And then they send me an email that has that lead that came in. So then I know really quick, did they accept it? Yes. If not, what's their counter offer? I know what county, because they ask what county, state, reference number, property size, and then do you accept, yes or no? And then I go from there. And so they'll have comments too. So I know really quick whether this is I need to look faster. It's delete. It's going to the round file cabinet. So they handle that. Then I look at it. I have a 4 checklist that I check to make sure it has access. Topography is good. If it's a flood zone, and then it actually has value. So that takes me about 5 minutes to look at a property. From there, if I say yes or no, from there it goes to title, and we're off and running. After title clears it, it goes to that agent. The agent handles it. So I'm saying that is we're able to do this volume with just me. I don't need a big team. I've had 5 employees over the 5 years. 2 of them have left because they started their own businesses and they're doing it on their own. And they're full-time land investors and they're making 6+ figures a year because they follow the process and they do it. We do a lot of deals together still, but they have their own companies. And then 2 just didn't show up to work. They just, 2 days in, they just failed to show back up. Oh, was I supposed to come in today? Yeah.
I thought we could work from home.
Yeah. Told you the week you're supposed to hear it. And one other, and I had another one that was you ask them to watch a training video and you keep track of how much they actually watched. And then I asked a couple questions like, hey, what color was the box on the outline of the parcel? You've seen it 12 times in this video. Oh man, it just didn't make sense to me. That's not even the answer to the question I'm asking, And then I look and they'd only watched 20% of the video and they actually never saw it. And so I got to tell all my employees or anybody that works with me, I can fix anything but a lie. If you make a mistake and it was an honest mistake, we can fix it. There's nothing you can do that's going to get us in trouble other than lie. Dishonesty is instant termination.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, it's hard to keep up with all those lies. So you kind of catch those people eventually. They lie about something and then they say something else. And I'm experimenting a little bit too. I brought on a few assistants recently. I saw that. And I had them listen to a podcast. And I'm like, hey, what was your favorite part of the podcast? Yeah. You can't lie about that. Like, the part where he talked about. Yeah. Like, okay. The whole thing. And so whenever I heard a specific response, I'm like, okay, I can tell that this person actually listened to it. Because I'm even paying them for their time on listening to that 1 hour podcast. And so if I'm paying for that, I want to make sure they actually learned it and are going to apply those things. And so you can't fix a lie, but you can fix anything else. And I think it's extremely important, I'm sure you would agree, to just hire that person who is honest and willing to learn and wants to show up. If they don't know what they're doing just yet, that's okay, as long as they want to be there and they're willing to learn. If the other person has some experience and they just don't want to be there, then they're not going to show up.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I had one that it was my sister-in-law. She's got her MBA. She was valedictorian MBA class. She's a year older than me, but she came to work with me 2.5 years ago, and she did amazing work for me. One of my clients actually offered her half his company to come run his company. He'd fund all the money. All she had to do is do the front side. Well, she's been doing that. And then she runs her own company too, her land investing company. So they're both simultaneous. And she reached back out and she's like, man, I'm interested if you're interested in having me back, because it's funny, the dynamic. Some people really thrive with being told the direction. They don't need to be shown the direction. They just, hey, this is where I think we need to go. And they'll run that away through the wall. And they're great at being the operating person. They don't want to be the person with the vision. And a lot of us pretend that we want to have the vision and see through the good days and the bad days and guide the ship in the direction it goes. But when it comes down to it, a lot of people really want to just be told, hey, I want you to do this and do it really well. And, say, hey, you need to do A, B, C, and D. And they don't want to figure out what A, B, C, and D is. They want to grow from there. And that's, I think she's coming to find that. And you see that a lot of people say that they failed at the thing because it doesn't work, when really they just needed somebody to spoon feed them. Hey, this is your next step. And a lot of people can do really well with just a little bit of advice, but it takes a special person to say, hey, I'm going to create something from nothing and figure it out.
I love what you said there, because the visionary, I think Traction talks about that, the book Traction, the visionary versus the integrator or the implementer. I forget the actual word, but it's hard to have that vision all the time. And not everyone's wired to do that. Yeah. They like to be, I think you use the word spoon fed, which sounds demeaning, a little bit like a little
I don't mean it demeaning. Yeah.
Right. I know exactly what you mean though. Like they need to know, hey, these are the 4 steps, take it and run. Yep. And boom, they'll do a great job with it. Yep. But sometimes it's difficult to think of what should those 4 steps be. So I understand why a lot of people get stuck. So very important distinction you made there. So what's your biggest goal? I know we're kind of at the end of the 30 minutes here, but what's your biggest goal for 2021 and beyond? What do you guys have next in the pipeline?
So
for your vision.
Yeah, I'm going to say this because I was thinking about what my first quarter goals were this year. And we stepped back in we were doing 3 podcasts a week. We stepped back on that to work on some other projects, which was a big subdivide. And I've got 2 of those going. I have another 2 under contract that I'm getting ready. I'm underwriting and just doing the final checks on. That was kind of a big thing for me to get into because it's what I knew our companies needed to do. And, you take 2 deals and they turn into 17 and you force appreciation, you're getting a person a little bit more money. So you're playing with a little bit bigger numbers. But for the first quarter for me, it was real important to step back and do some internal searching and like get my mental back in it, because it's when you get into the repetition of your business and you get it into a machine, basically you start to get a little bit, I don't want to say lax, but for lack of a better term, you just get kind of complacent. And that plays into other parts of your mind. If you're a type A, like go straight into the fire, like jump out and like in raw kind of person, and you get into this complacency, it hurts your drive some. And so I needed to figure out some internal, like personal things that I needed to work on. So I spent the first quarter of this year, like deep inside. So I'm glad you say that. So goal for me, I know that's a long way to get there.
No, I need to hear this because I'm I'm at that bored phase that you're talking about. I'm like, please tell me more. Did you figure it out?
2021 for me was the subdivides, which we've done. I want to see these projects close out, but was also to better myself as a partner for my wife, my kids as a dad. And I don't think I was a bad one, but I wanted to be more in tune with that and really take advantage of this thing that we've created to build what 5 year looks like, what 10 year looks like for our family. Because I asked my wife this question the other day, and it kind of bounced off of her, and she didn't know how to expect. She didn't know if I was being kind of facetious or smart ass or what I was doing. Cause I said, hey, what does it look like? What does our family look like in 5 years to you? Like monetarily, like where are we at location? Like what are we worried about? What are we looking at? What are we like, things like what's our vacation plan? Like, what are we living in summer somewhere? What are we doing? Like, what is your dream? And are we doing that every day to impact it? And I've always been, this is what we're doing, business wise, we're going to make money to do this. And, if things come up, we handle it, but we haven't had that definitive conversation to take on what our family legacy or what our plan is as a family. And to me, that was really important to kind of reground that. There's a local real estate investor here. His name's John Montero. And I saw him and his wife, they have planning sessions once a quarter. Them two go to dinner, and that's what they talk about. And both of them understand where they're going and they work on it together. And I think it was a good thing for me to see, because I've been with my wife for 20 years and we've never had those type conversations other than like, hey, this opportunity came up. What do you think? Just off the cuff, but starting to move with more intent and intention for our family and what that looks like, and laying that with business and our businesses. Cause we have 4 right now. So, and making sure they're all moving in that direction.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Justin. That's super powerful. I love that word intention. I feel like that's been my mantra lately. Before I do anything, I'm like, wait, does this align with what I actually want and with that 5-year vision where I want my life to go? Yeah. And I wrote that down, planning sessions at dinner. I love that idea of asking, how can we support each other and actually work towards what we envision? Because it's easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle, closing deals, doing more deals for the sake of doing them.
Yeah.
But you're like, what are we doing all this for? What do we actually want? What does our perfect life look like? Maybe it's moving somewhere. I know you said you guys like to go on like motorcycle tours and stuff in Colorado, right? So maybe doing more of that, or camping across the nation, or getting an RV, like whatever those things are, it's important to have those conversations.
Oh, 100%. We've always joked about going to the beach, but at the same time, our family's here and we don't want to leave there. And so it's like, do we say once a month we move to Costa, or once a year for the summer, we go for a month to Costa Rica and rent a place and just down there and enjoy the family together. And, without having those conversations and actually mapping it out and then working towards that together, because we've kind of found this by default that my wife said she wanted to do Airbnb. Okay, great. I know 3 Airbnb coaches that are amazing that we can get you set up with. So get her all the education. I jump all into it. I'm getting her lined up. We're spending money. She sees me excited, so she gets excited and buys furniture and starts getting it. I've got a storage building full to ready to do all this.
Cool.
And we're talking about it, and she says, I think it's going to be a fun side, like a fun hobby. And I'm like, wait a second, we're doing a hobby? I'm thinking you're about to be the next Airbnb queen. Like I'm ready to push you to the top of Airbnb and being the one that everybody wants to talk to.
Yeah.
And, that was a misnomer on my part, because my personality takes over and runs with it. She gets excited off my personality, and really she wanted to do 1 or 2 of them. And I'm like, well, is it worth it to do 1 or 2? Are we just risking a bunch? Where are we at? And we have to find that groove for us. And everybody has those ticks and those niches and those like just little quirks about them. And it's identifying them and working on them. And that, again, for me, is where I've spent, is like, hey, Justin, I know these are your quirks, and you got to be able to notice them when they're starting to pop up and how to move past it.
Absolutely. And it just takes constant self-reflection, because things change. Maybe we go to a certain direction, and then you get to where you're trying to go and you realize that's not really what you want, and you can tweak it again. So lots of good stuff here. Thank you so much for sharing. Cause like I said, I was in that place of, well, I'm kind of where I wanted to be, but it's not what I thought it was going to be. What do I do next? So maybe I could check out land investing or be one of their drone pilots for you in my free time.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's, I think you're in a great place now. I saw your pictures from Boulder, and it's beautiful there.
Oh, it's so gorgeous, man. I didn't have that view in Houston. I got to tell you that.
So when I became an engineer for the railroad, we went to Utah. That's where your class is. And so I'm in Salt Lake City. This is the first time I've ever seen a mountain. And I was like 25 years old. And so I'm sitting at Salt Lake College, or community college. I think that's what it was called. They have a deck on the second floor outside the cafeteria, and I'm just staring at the mountains, because I've never seen something so enormous and so powerful, yet so calm and so still.
Right.
And, it was very calming to me. So I know that you're getting a lot of this just new energy.
Recharging off of nature. That's a secret superpower. I mean, if anyone hasn't gotten out in nature, I really encourage you to, because there's that calming, like you said, it's powerful, but what did you say? Peaceful
it's a calm and quiet, but it's a powerful force just sitting there.
Absolutely. When you see that and you realize how small we are, a lot of the problems that we worry about, oh my gosh, this person saw me with like a booger in my nose. It doesn't matter, right? Yeah. We all are bigger than our problems, and we can accomplish so much. So Justin, where can our audience go to learn more about you, to learn more about land investing and all of that kind of good stuff, and listen to your podcast as well?
Casual Fridays REI on all the socials, plus casualfridaysrei.com. You can check out our podcast on any of the major podcast distribution platforms. And then I always throw this in there because you've connected with me via Instagram and Facebook. That's really me on there. When you go to my last name, 32, I don't put it behind like a fake, glamour shot and then just do only business hype stuff. I actually let you see into the daily life of what it looks like, because I believe there's power in when you see these people that you hear on podcasts, and for lack of a better term, people that do education, you can see what they're really about. You can get a good feeling for them, and you can share in the journey with them. And they become more of a part of your network versus just a random guru that was a fly by night person at night.
100%. Authenticity is so powerful. And when you show those pictures, hey, here's my family, here's my kids, here's me hiking in the mountains on the weekend or whatever, people can relate to you so much more. And I found that for me too. I mean, I just got back, if you know Carrot and Trevor Mock out there, I flew to Oregon from someone's podcast that I've listened to, who I had never met before, right? That's the power of a podcast, but following somebody and getting to know them, and okay, they got a family. They seem like a great person. They're not just a fake guru type of person. That's when people take the initiative to invest in you and your courses and your services, and strong relationships get built that way. So
you're 100%. That's funny for us is we did a catch raise on this big ranch that we bought. And I've posted a few pictures on both some of the social medias. There'll be more come out as we go, but we did a cash raise on it, and we sold out in 24 hours, $1 million in 24 hours. And we had another 20 people reach out saying, hey, why didn't we get on the email? They weren't on our email list. Everybody else that was on our email list said, yeah, sorry, I was out of town. I wanted to look at it a little bit closer. We want the next one. So it's fun to see, because it's not that we want to take somebody else's money, because our money's in it too, but we want to amplify our tribe or our network. We want to amplify their net worth, because we want to add value to those that follow us along. So that's a cool part about it. And I know you give plenty of value to your listeners as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I mean, everybody wins. I have a friend who uses the term everybody eats, because he wants us to all win, get paid on deals. Everybody gets successful and acquires real estate, builds that wealth. So everybody make sure to go connect with Justin, Casual Fridays REI on all the platforms. And again, it was awesome connecting with you here again, Justin, and just talking about land investing and all that mindset, stepping back, slowing down in order to speed up as well.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, Chris. It's great to see you again.
Awesome. Likewise. Talk soon.
Yes, sir.
Hey, everyone. Chris Bello here. Just wanted to thank you real quick for listening to the show, whether you're listening on podcast or YouTube or wherever it is that you may be listening. I wanted to make that quick offer about real estate help. I am in the real estate business. That is my main business, and how I make all my income and my living by helping others buy, sell, rent, or invest in real estate across the nation. If you have any questions at all, go to chrisbello.com/real estate. Again, that is chrisbello.com/real estate. I'd love to see if I can help you out in my markets. And maybe if you're in a market outside of the ones that I'm focusing on right now, I'd love to connect you with a real estate professional who can help fulfill whatever needs or services that you are requiring. So again, go to chrisbello.com/real estate. A great thing is when I connect you with a vetted professional, if I'm not able to help you myself, is whenever a transaction closes, I'm actually able to get a referral commission. So that can be a great way of thanking me for my content. It helps to support the show, and it helps me to continue to spend time bringing on amazing guests, doing these great interviews, spending a lot of time on creating content, and making sure that I can bring you the very best information that you need to grow professionally, emotionally, intelligently, and in every single area. You know, we're all working on getting better at everything. And so my focus and expertise is in real estate. I'd love to be the one to help you again. If you're not interested in that, no worries at all. Please continue to listen to the show. Make sure you leave a review. It helps so much in getting new followers and sharing the message. And thank you once again for being a listener. I'll catch you on the next episode.